There we go.
I'm going to call the City Council meeting for January the 6th, 2015. Welcome, everyone, to the first meeting of 2015, City Council. First order of business we have tonight, we have the oaths of office for City Attorney Kit Williams and looks like Councilmember John Latour from Ward 4. And Judge Story, would you like to do those? We'll turn it over to you.
Mayor, I anticipated several other members to be
I
sworn
did
in.
too, but here we are.
And so I'll have to sort through my oaths.
Okay.
Just 1 second here and we'll start. Mr. Williams, if you'd stand and raise your right hand.
I, Kit Williams, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Arkansas,
And I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of City Attorney, City of Fayetteville,
of City Attorney, City of Fayetteville,
upon which I am now about to enter.
upon which I am now about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Judge.
Mr. Latour, if you'll stand and raise your right hand.
Yes, sir.
I, John Latour,
I, John Latour,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
I will support the Constitution of the United States,
I will support the Constitution of the State of Arkansas,
and the Constitution of the State of Arkansas,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of Alderman, Ward 4, Position 1,
of Alderman, Ward 4, Position 1,
upon which I am about to enter.
upon now which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, y'all.
Thank you, Mayor.
If there's just another minute or so, I'll have Ms. Stockhelper present these oaths for signature.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that was fast. Fast filing.
Thank you, Dana. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dina.
I'd certainly like to thank Judge Story for coming down and administering this oath. It's
Absolutely.
an honor to take it from you, Judge.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. It's an honor to do this.
Okay, the next order of business. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Teddy?
Here.
Bennett? Shopmeyer?
Here.
Latour?
Here.
Long?
Here.
Gray? Marsh?
Here.
Kenyon? Mayor Jordan.
Here, would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, under the mayor's announcements, proclamation, recognitions, we have city council meeting presentations, reports, and discussion items. The first thing we have tonight is the election of the vice mayor. Kit?
Mayor, let me read what the Rules of Order and Procedure of the Fayetteville City Council says about this. It's very short. The City Council shall, at the time of organizing in public session, elect one of its members as vice mayor. Any alderman may nominate himself or herself or any other member of the City Council for vice mayor, and no second of the nomination is required. Each alderman shall vote by naming his or her choice by voice vote. If there is more than one nominee, for a position, a majority vote of the City Council shall be required for election. In the absence of the mayor, the vice mayor shall preside at the city council meetings. I shall note that we have a pretty small city council, only 5 out of 8. And a majority vote of the city council would be 5 votes. So I just want to call that to your attention before we start voting tonight.
Okay. Howell,
Could we make a motion to suspend the rules and vote on this at our next meeting?
you mean
The more-
table it?
When the rest of the city
Probably
council
just
is here.
table is what you need to do.
I make a motion to table this to the next
We
meeting.
have a motion and a second to table. Any discussion on that? Okay. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Petty,
Yes.
Shopmire,
Yes.
Latour,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Marsh. Yes.
Okay, moving along to number 2. Yes, for your listening entertainment tonight, I'm about to do the report on the Firemen's and Policemen's Pension and Relief Fund. Okay, and in keeping with the statutory requirements, I'm presenting this report for 2014 on the local police and fire retirement and relief funds for the city of Fayetteville. Both of these plans were closed by law in 1983, and there are no longer any active working members remaining. There are currently 40 police and 52 fire retirees. At December 2014, projected expenses from the fire pension fund was approximately $1.4 million as compared to fund revenues of $1 million. Projected police pension fund expenses were approximately $1.6 million, as compared to fund revenues in excess of $1.5 million. This is before adjusting investments to market value. However, on a cash flow basis, contributions are not covering expenses. Actuarial evaluations are the responsibility of the State of Arkansas Fire and Police Pension Review Board. The last evaluations completed were as of August 2014 for the year ending December 31st, 2013. Based on those evaluations, the unfunded pension obligations of the police and fire funds were $8.8 million and $11.3 million respectively, and have grown considerably from prior years. The unfunded actuarially accrued liabilities for these funds were approximately $12.7 million for police and $14.1 million for fire. In the annual reports issued by the Arkansas Pension Review Board, neither the fire nor police pension fund were found to be actuarially sound pursuant to established financial tests. Back in October of 2010, representatives of the Pension Review Board came to Fayetteville to present a special report on the fire pension fund. Both fire pension board members and the city council members attended the meeting when this report was presented. During that presentation, the PRB board actuary indicated that the fund ran a 90% risk of ruin within the next 5 to 10 years, and conditions have not improved since then. The Fire Pension Board has again received correspondence in 2014 advising the board of the fund's risky financial condition. During 2014, operating conditions of the Fire Pension Fund have been relatively the same, so no improvement has been made. However, the assessed value of the fund continues to be under $5 million, which makes it subject to further investment restrictions. These restrictions no longer allow investments in individual securities. Investments will be limited to cash, cash equivalents, government bonds, and no-load mutual funds. This means overall returns in the future are likely to be less than previously experienced, which could bring about depletion of the fund even earlier unless the pension board does something. The Fire Pension Board has been aware of the unstable condition of the fund and has been discussing the situation and possible options since 2009, but has not decided on a plan of action supported by the majority of the board. The primary option has been discussed is the possible reduction of current benefits. The city clerk and I have each introduced motions and had numerous votes to reduce benefits, but all votes to do so up until this point in time have failed. The pension board has also been advised that there is no specific enabling legislation to reduce benefits, and legal issues might prevent that option. All other options presented would require substantial financial contributions by the city. However, the city attorney has advised the pension board and the city that the city has no direct obligations to fund the pension plan other than the .4 mil dedicated levy for each plus state insurance turnback. The PRB has continued to classify the fire pension fund as projected insolvent. The police pension fund is also considered actuarially unsound, but not in immediate danger of being insolvent. The police pension board is also aware of the police pension fund status and has been considering options that would guarantee long-term solvency. I will continue to monitor these pension funds in the future and keep you apprised of any new developments. And that is if you have any questions on the finances of this, Paul is here to answer those questions. Do we have any questions on that? Okay, it is what it is. I know Sandra and I have tried to reduce the pension a couple of times, and we have not been successful. But it is what it is. So anyway, we will move along then to the Housing Authority Board Commissioner's appointment. Oh, hi, Della.
Hello.
Good to have you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Who has that report?
I have it. If
Okay.
someone can give me a copy, I don't, yes, thank you. Justin could not be here and asked me if I would do this. Dear Mayor Lionel Jordan, the Fayetteville City Council members, this letter is to confirm that the Fayetteville Housing Authority's board elected a new commissioner to fill the term of a resigning commissioner, Leon Jones Jr., and re-elected commissioner, Christopher Terry, to serve an additional 5-year term at its December 18th, 2013 regular board meeting. The new commissioner for the Fayetteville Housing Authority Board is Christopher White, who was appointed to fulfill the remainder of the term of Leon Jones Jr., who resigned at the December 18, 2014 regular board meeting. Jones' term was set to expire on December 28, 2017. Christopher Terry's new term will expire on December 28, 2019. Fayetteville Housing Authority Board requests that this newly elected commissioner, Christopher White, along with re-election of Commissioner Christopher Terry, be placed on the next City Council meeting agenda to be formally confirmed by the municipality's governing body in accordance with the Arkansas State Statute number 14-169-208. If you have any questions, please feel free to call or email Frida Swain, Executive Director.
Okay. We need to approve those, correct? I'll entertain a motion to
So moved.
Second.
approve the Housing Authority Board Commissioner appointments. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Petty,
Yes.
Shopmire,
Yes.
Latour,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Marsh,
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I don't have to vote on that one, do I? All right. The next one is the Ozark Regional Transit Semi-Monthly Report. Who has that? Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, my name is Jeff Hatley. I'm the Mobility Manager and Public Information Officer with Ozark Regional Transit. I promise to be brief. I want to start off by thanking the council so very much for your continued support and backing. We finally got this ship headed in the right direction, we feel like, and with your continued support and funding and direction and feedback, we hope to continue that path. Relative to Fayetteville, the fixed route ridership has increased 2% over the same month, which I'm reading from November, same month in 2013. The paratransit has increased 57% over November 2013. Of course, I've talked about that before. That's from the scheduling and the software that we use and the retraining of our staff to get more bang for our buck out of that. But the main thing I wanted to address with the council tonight is that we had a record year. I don't have the full report yet, but I will email that to Sandra as soon as it becomes available. But we've had ridership of 320,976 passengers in the year 2014. That's a record year. So definitely wanted to get that out there. With that, I will leave it open to questions, comments, and concerns.
You have any questions for Jeff tonight on this? John?
Do you know what the rider revenue was? People who actually receive the service, do they pay for the service, or is this all funded through government grants?
We do charge a bus fare. It's $1.25 for the bus and $2.50 for the paratransit or demand response minivan.
Do you know what that total amount collected during 2014 was from the riders themselves?
I don't have the whole 2014 report yet. All I have is the ridership. He sent me a text on the way over here. All I have is the up to November. I can probably find that number if you'd like, but
We'll wait for the email from Sandra.
okay, all right,
Thank you.
you bet.
Any other questions? Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next order of business we have tonight is City Council Committee appointments. Those are something I do every 2 years, and I trust you will look those over, and that's where I have assigned folks for the next 2 years. So, any comments or anything? Okay. We do have to approve the water and
Yes.
sewer, and there's some
And the
state,
transportation also, it'd be a motion to approve, the
all the
appointments.
committees, and just be,
So moved.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to approve all the City Council Committee appointments.
Mayor, and just to be clear for the record, this is the second listing that went out, not the first one included.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Hetty,
Yes.
Shopmire,
Yes.
Latour,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Marsh,
Yes.
Okay. All right, the next order of business is a consent. I understand that Councilman Latour would like to pull item 2, the resolution to approve the Transportation Division's overlay sidewalk projects list for 2015. Is that correct, John?
That is correct, Mayor. I'd like to have a discussion about that.
Absolutely. So we will pull that one, and I will read the rest of the consent agenda, and then we will come back to the sidewalk projects. All right, number 1, approval of December 16th, 2014 City Council meeting minutes. Number 2 has been pulled. Number 3, a resolution to approve a budget adjustment recognizing hazmat services revenue received by the fire department from Washington County in the amount of $5,180 and increasing the related expense budget. Number 4, a resolution to authorize acceptance of a non-matching continuation sub-grant from the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force Program in the amount of $14,976.78 and to approve a budget adjustment. Number 5, a resolution agreeing to change the zoning from R1 single-family residential to RO residential office for property located in the city of Johnson that adjoins parcels in the city of Fayetteville. Number 6, a resolution to approve a 5-year lease agreement with an option to renew for an additional 5 years with Dan and Anita Spencer for approximately 18.18 acres of unused city property on the west side of Lake Sequoia in exchange for the Spencers conveying additional easements to the city that are necessary for construction and operation activities pertaining to the Lake Sequoia sediment removal project. I'll entertain a motion to accept the
So
consent
moved.
agenda. We have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda as read. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Hetty,
Yes.
Shopmire,
Yes.
Latour,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Marsh,
Yes.
Okay, let me reread resolution number 2, resolution to approve the Transportation Division's overlay sidewalk projects list for 2015. John, I understand that you would like to pull this and discuss it.
Great. I appreciate the opportunity, Mayor. As many of you know, my family and I live across the street from Razorback Stadium. And as many of you know also, Razorback football games bring many, many tourists to our city. And we benefit immensely from sales tax dollars that come in from that tourism business. I think it is incumbent upon we, the city government of Fayetteville, to make sure that those visitors are safe to the maximum extent possible. Right outside of my driveway is Hossel Road. There was a construction project started on Hossel Road early in 2014, building curbs and sidewalks on the west end of Hossel. It came all the way to Cross Street and stopped. We were told by the construction crew, not that they would know that, all the ins and outs of workings of our policy, but we were told by them that it was going to come all the way to Oliver Avenue. On game days, thousands of people walk down Hossel Road who park up in the neighborhoods in various places. And there is no shoulder on Hossel Road from former Councilman Rhonda Adams' home all the way to the corner of Hossel Road and Oliver Avenue. There's a pretty steep embankment and a ditch. On game days, people walk in the ditch to avoid being run over by automobiles. I think we need to improve that. I had a good conversation with Director Terry Gully this week. He expressed concerns that we may not have right-of-ways to build sidewalks in that area. I suggest that we do what's necessary to attain right-of-ways and build sidewalks for public safety. I understand our policy to build sidewalks wherever we can for aesthetic values. Here's a very strongly compelling public safety issue that we as the council, I think, need to address. I wanted to bring this to a public forum to highlight the seriousness of the risk being assumed by pedestrians on game day, but that's not the only risk. We have a lot of people in our neighborhood who walk through our neighborhood and there's no sidewalk in that area. What I'm suggesting is, instead of building a Ward 4 sidewalk on Markham Street, a block to our south, let's build that same sidewalk on Hossel Road where it's desperately needed. A sidewalk is needed and is welcome probably wherever you want to build it by pedestrians. But for maximum bang for the buck, the maximum efficiency of our spending, I think it needs to be built on Hossel Road. If we don't have the right-of-ways, let's get the right-of-ways. I just wanted to make that clear to the council.
Okay, so you want to move the sidewalk, basically, John, from Markham to Hossel,
That's correct.
and pull it on down. Alan, what
Yeah,
comments do you have?
I appreciate those comments. We had several Ward 4 meetings on the topic of the priority list, and that general area, and Markham was much higher on the priority list, and actually some of the people that lived on the other street wanted to maintain the narrowness and lack of sidewalks there, but we've asked that they continue those discussions in the next year. So I don't think I'd be able to support that at this point, just because of the so many public meetings we've had with the Ward 4 people wanting the Markham access, because that connects a lot of area there instead of just one small area, because they just opened up the sidewalks. And that gets actually people to the university from farther out via walking. So at this time, I think it would be better to leave it,
Okay,
personally.
it's been
I
through the
respect your idea
Transportation
on that.
Committee, I take it.
Yes, it was, and I don't want
Terry
to
Gully.
speak for Alderwoman Adams, but my recollection was that her comments were very similar to Alderman Long's.
Okay, who else is on transportation? Della?
Yes, well, I also listened carefully to Rhonda as she talked about many of the residents on Halsell. Of course, I also hear what Alderman Latour is saying, that it's a safety issue. So I do think it's something we need to look at, but, you know, it's not as though we haven't looked at it, is what I'm saying. As Alderman Long says, we've had numerous meetings, and I think the Ward 4 aldermen feel it strongly that it is in the proper place in the plan.
Okay, Terry, what input do you have on
Well, I'll
this?
just give you a little background on what we did last year when we talked to, and what our past history of what we do is. We present several alternatives to the different ward aldermen, and then we get their recommendation on that, and that's where we came up with this year. We've done that the last couple of years. One of the reasons we did go with Markham is we completed the sidewalk from Hossel, across Cross Street over to the Markham area with the intent to do that because It's about a 900-foot sidewalk to complete that section. The east end of Markham currently has sidewalk that leads directly to the south end of the stadium. So, and we have the right-of-way that we need on that street to make that happen this year. Our intent is still to look at getting that right-of-way through the course of this year with the idea that in the future years, as quick as we can obtain that, to go back and do the Halsell sidewalk and turn on Oliver and go all the way to Maple, because we've got to get to Maple because that's the next section that then leads down to Razorback and complete that section. So that's our plan on that. The Markham project is a 7-week project with about $59,000 worth of expense associated with it. We went back and figured the Halsell project. It's about 1,500 feet, 13-week project that cost about $121,000. So it's pretty much right at double. Taking our entire budget for the year and both time and available funds, I don't have an extra $60,000 or an extra 6 weeks to make all that happen this year. So that was the idea behind it, plus talking with the ward alderman and coming up with the decision to go with Markham this year and looking to try and get the right-of-way obtained. Because one of the issues on Halsell is that the road is not in the center of the right-of-way. It's almost adjacent to the south side. And the south side of Halsell is where we need to continue the sidewalk so it'll connect to the western part we completed earlier, last year. So anyway, that's the reasoning behind what we did and what we're trying to accomplish and the time frame on what we're looking at to try and do both.
Okay, is there any questions for, yes, Alan?
And I was just going to add, we did at the Ward 4 meeting discuss the necessity of having both eventually, because they're both a safety risk, because they're jumping in the ditch basically on both sides on game day. So not to say that you don't have a great idea. They both need to be done eventually, but we just thought in our Ward 4 meetings and from constituent input that Markham was more of a priority at the time.
Okay, yes, John.
I would just like to point out that many of the people who use Halsell Road on game day don't live in Ward 4. They're tourists. I was trying to draw the link between our city budget and the importance of tourism to our city. And I think we need to be sensitive to their needs, not just the Ward 4 residents. I want to represent my ward to the best of my ability, but we have a Razorback Stadium right adjacent to our ward, which has an impact on our ward, on that part of Ward 4. I think we need to make those people as safe as we can. I understand Ward 4 meetings might have pointed us in a different direction. That's why I'm trying to bring it here before the council. Those of us who live adjacent to this area see the danger. There are 3 short hills on Halsell Road. When you come over the hill, you can't see what's on the side of the road or what's trying to get out of your way. It makes it increasingly dangerous. So I just wanted this in a public forum. I wanted it in the public record that there is danger here. I don't see the same danger on Markham. I don't see the volume of people on game day on Markham. But I don't live on Markham, so maybe it's there and I just don't know about it. I see what's on Halsell Road. So I would encourage us to look strongly at this, and I understand if we can't do it this year, Terry, I appreciate that. Just, I don't want it to get on the back burner and die off somewhere. That's what I'm trying to do, is accentuate that need.
Okay.
Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to support going forward with the plan as presented. Earlier, I guess it was last year, we heard from the Pratt Place Inn and Barn, that they were wanting to expand their operations, and one of the primary reasons that we couldn't support that was because of the danger along Markham Road in terms of traffic and pedestrian interface. And so, in talking about tourism and local businesses, I think it's really important that we increase the safety on Markham Road. And I know that a lot of thought and work has gone into this plan, so I'm really going to support it as presented.
Okay.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is more for Alderman Long. I think, as I understand it, the traffic or the foot traffic on Markham is kind of all the time. not just game days. Is that correct?
I would say the foot traffic in the entire area is all the time, and not just game day, but
But not
there's
as
a more
much on,
direct.
seems like on Hallsville.
It's less of a steep area to walk in, and I see that as encouraging more people to walk from the university on that slighter steepness there.
Well, I'm certainly all for getting it done. I certainly am, but we've put a lot of time into the plan, so I'm gonna support sticking with the plan.
Okay. I'm going to take some public comment on this. Anyone like to address this from the public? Please come up, introduce yourself. Everybody gets one turn at the microphone. And the only time you can come back is if a council member brings you back to ask you questions. Please give us your name and address. Keep your remarks to me. Don't engage somebody in the audience or a council member, okay?
Thank you, Mr.
All
Mayor.
right.
I'm Sean Vollendorf. I live on Oliver Avenue, and I have property on Halsell Avenue, so I see a lot of what John Latour sees. I'm sympathetic to previous meetings as well that I was unaware of even coming into this meeting, but I did at least want to speak up and say, you know, I'm there on game days, all 6 this fall, really all 5 or 6 every fall. I've seen, after games in particular, I have seen several people get hit with vehicles, not to the point of going to the hospital, it's more side swipes. Just simply because there's nowhere to go. I'm walking up and down that road all the time after game days, and of course you have a lot of people who've had drinks before and during the game, and so after the game, you know, they're not walking straight down that road either, and so you literally do have thousands of people coming down that road after game days. I've seen it time and again, so I do think there is a safety concern there.
Okay.
I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, my name is Zara Niederman. I live in Ward 4 on Hotz Drive. I see the need on Hallsville, certainly. It's dark there, the curves. However, just as a counterpoint on Markham, you have people coming in every day, particularly a lot of students that come in the back way from Sang to cross and down Markham, and if you kind of stand there, you'll look that half of them are on their phones or texting as they're coming around the curve, coming down Markham, and people are walking up. There's no sidewalks there, so it's definitely people driving a lot faster because they're going downhill. I'm not saying I have an opinion, but just that's from my perspective. That's kind of, I think that Markham's definitely unsafe, and it's a constant.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Mayor, I am Trig Latour, and I live at 410 North Oliver Avenue. And I understand what everyone has said about the traffic. Everyone knows about game days. And there are students that drive on Markham to get to the stadium, and there's also students who drive Apostle to get to the university every day. But there's also a lot of students who live back in the neighborhoods of Hostel who walk Apostle to get to the university. So I think that that also contributes to a lot of foot traffic all year round. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Who else? Okay, bring it back to the council. What's the wishes of the council?
I mean, we accept the, or we pass the original plan.
Okay, let me read it again. A resolution to approve the Transportation Division's overlay sidewalk projects list for 2015. You're making a motion to pass that?
Yes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any final comments on this?
If I could just make a comment on behalf of staff, we are in complete agreement with Councilmember Latour's comments. We're committed to acquiring the right-of-way to do the plan for next year. Both of these items are priorities. This is like a puzzle piece of time and dollars allocated by all 4 wards. And so while this project is double in time and dollars, it will be a high priority for both of our council members for Ward 4 to prioritize the next year, knowing that we will work this year to get the right-of-way so that we don't have that problem next year.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. There's no any other final comments. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Petty,
Yes.
Shopmar,
Yes.
Latour,
No?
Long,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Marsh.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Under unfinished business, number one, an ordinance to amend the federal code by enacting 71.016 insurance requirements for motorized bicycles, motor scooters, and mopeds. I will entertain a motion to go to the second reading.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to go to the second reading.
Point of order.
Huh?
Point of order, we sent that to the ordinance review committee.
We have
they
not.
Well, we left it on
Well, we
the
can
first
hold it right
reading,
here
so
and
it,
set
so it automatically comes to the next meeting, as a second reading. Ordinance Review Committee certainly can take it up whenever they want to,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the city council indicated they wanted the Ordinance Review Committee to take a look at it, but it still comes at this meeting as a second reading.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Mhm.
Everybody good? All right, Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Petty,
Yes.
Shopmire.
Yes.
Latour,
Yes.
Long,
Yes?
Gray,
Yes.
Marsh.
Yes.
An ordinance to amend the Fayetteville Code by enacting section 71.016, insurance requirements for motorized bicycles, motor scooters, and mopeds.
So we will hold it right here, correct? Yes. No.
I'd like to make a motion to table this ordinance until February 17th.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to table this ordinance till February the 17th. Any discussion on that? Okay. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Petty,
Yes.
Shopmire. Latour,
Yes.
Long,
Yes?
Gray,
Yes.
Marsh.
Yes.
Okay. So we've tabled this to February the 17th, correct?
That's correct.
All right. All right. Number two, under unfinished business, an ordinance rezoning that property described in rezoning petition RZN 14-4859 for approximately 1.9 acres located at 300 and 400 block of Martin Luther King Boulevard from NC Neighborhood Conservation to DG Downtown General. I'll entertain a motion to go to the second reading.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to go to the second reading. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Petty,
Yes.
Shopmire.
Yes.
Latour,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Marsh.
Yes.
An ordinance rezoning that property described in rezoning petition RZN 14-4859 for approximately 1.9 acres located at the 300 and 400 block of Martin Luther King Boulevard from Neighborhood Conservation to Downtown General.
Jeremy, have anything?
Mayor and Council, just for the benefit of Mr. Latour, who was not here, this item was tabled back on the December 6th meeting, I believe, to this item, to this meeting, sorry, December 2nd meeting, to tonight by the applicant. This property is located on the north side of Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard between Wood Avenue and Willow Avenue, so it's several blocks east of the intersection of Highway 71 and MLK. It's within the Walker Park Neighborhood Master Plan boundary. The property is currently developed with single-family homes on this property and then all the properties surrounding, a couple of which were constructed by the applicant within the last couple of months, or within the last 6 months. Our future land use plan designates this site as a complete neighborhood plan for Walker Park, and staff did not feel like rezoning the property from the current zoning designation of neighborhood conservation to downtown general would be a compatible zoning district for this area of small, single-family, small-scale homes. We felt like another zoning district such as neighborhood services, which we investigated with the applicant and met with him to discuss, would be probably more appropriate in this area. The planning commissioners did vote 6-2 in favor of the downtown general, however, and as we discussed with the applicant, staff would be likely supportive of an amended request to rezone a portion of the property, downtown general, particularly at the intersection there along the eastern boundary where you see adjacency to downtown general, there at the intersection. But we're not supportive of rezoning the entire property to downtown general at this point in time.
But you would entertain an amendment to rezone some of it?
We would, and we discussed that with the applicant. Mr. Niederman can speak for himself on that particular proposal. I believe he would like to have the council consider the original proposal. Our concern primarily with downtown general, which allows for a number of non-residential uses, which is not the primary concern. I think our primary concern is massing and scale. The size of buildings allowed in downtown general is much different than neighborhood conservation. We simply have a concern of that within this particular neighborhood, particularly mid-block, where you really have single-family homes and single-family residents in this area.
Okay. Mr. Niederman, would you like to, yes, would you like to say something to the council?
Yes, thank you very much. We spoke before Christmas, and I think we had some good conversations, but just with the holidays, we couldn't come to an agreement. I think we have similar, we're along the same lines, but I had talked about having the, if we were going to keep if we could keep downtown general, but then look at a height limit or density, decreasing density from downtown general, and the staff felt that wasn't enough to give them the okay. Later, after looking at some of the different options, I looked at, in the conversation, they felt that it was not just the size, but how it was developed. So then I proposed, what if I were to go forward with the downtown district design overlay so that it would look appropriate for, just there would be more design oversight of it, and the staff felt that wasn't enough to give them comfort with the moving forward with downtown general. My feeling is that the Councilmember Latour, as you can see, to the west, it's all downtown general. To the east, it's downtown general in blue. And I talked with architect Chris Baribeau at Moda Studios to see his thoughts and what sort of, limitations I could put on it that might, satisfy the council, and where we could have some meeting of the minds. But his thought too was that made sense to be downtown general from all the way across, on 7th Street as well, so one block down. With regard to it being a single family neighborhood setting, a lot of the houses there are old and they're just in need of repair or to be torn down. I don't feel like it's really it has the neighborhood feel that you see in a typical neighborhood. It's a fairly busy street. There are single family houses. It has a little more urban feel to me, and that's kind of the way I see why I see downtown general as making the most sense. Neighborhood services, has some interest, but the density is a lot lower. It has density requirements, and it's more single family, and I just don't think that from what I'm looking at and what I think is appropriate for the neighborhood services really will meet that need.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Niederman on this?
I'm trying to get up to speed on it, Mayor. This is located on MLK?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's on the east side though, so it's a more narrow. Once you hit School 71, it closes down to 2 lanes, so it's a little bit. There's still a lot of traffic, but it's slower
Right.
and more narrow.
I travel that quite frequently.
Okay.
And in layman's terms, what do you want to do?
Okay, I would like to have it build it so it's not just single-family houses. I'd like to have some commercial space with residences above, so that people can walk to the commercial spaces that are in the neighborhood, and also live above them, so that there's just part of the Walker Park plan was to have a walkable neighborhood with Jefferson, which is to the left in the blue, Jefferson Center being neighborhood core a core center. And to the right of it is Huntsville area, where that was going to be neighborhood commercial space, so making this sort of a core area. And so my thought is that we should connect the two, have commercial space in between, so there's a real walking, there's just a real presence of that neighborhood of mixed-use commercial and residential.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. We will take some public comment on this project. Any public comment on it? Okay, bring it back to the council. Okay. What y'all want to do? Yes, Sarah.
I really like this plan. You know, we talk a lot about encouraging infill development, creating walkable neighborhoods, good mix of services of commercial and residential. I like it's, it's on our transit lines. It's in close proximity to Willow Bend, so we could get some jobs and resources there. And I think that the small size of the actual parcel will help limit the some of the potential adverse effects that downtown general might otherwise create in a larger area. So I support this plan. I would like to see this move forward to help improve that neighborhood.
Okay. Yeah.
I think Alderwoman Marsh makes a good point about the size of the parcel being a limiting factor. But I think, there's an undercurrent here which I think is important for future decisions about this. And, in thinking a lot about this, I think, to me, it's become apparent that our zoning code isn't as granular as perhaps it ought to be. I don't think that we have the zoning designation on the books that would be most appropriate for this parcel. If you look at neighborhood services and, do a side-by-side comparison with downtown general, there's a tremendous gap between the two. And, yeah, I agree with staff that in absolute terms, the scale of downtown general that's allowed is probably not appropriate for this site. I'm comfortable voting for it because of the size of the parcel. But I would have to disagree on the point that neighborhood services is adequate for the applicant, or even the highest and best zoning district for the neighborhood. I don't feel like we have one on the books that would be the highest and best zoning district for the neighborhood. And so, I'll support the request, but I hope that we see this as some motivation going forward to add some granularity to our zoning code, and maybe go through a calibration process with some of the best practices that are out there as we update our city plan this year.
Any other comments? Now, we're on the second reading, everybody. So you can leave it here and wait for more council members. You can...
I would like to see us leave it on this reading.
You would? Okay.
When we have more members here.
Okay. Okay, well, what's everybody think? You want to leave it here, or?
I mean, I have a habit of deferring to the alderman of
Yeah,
the board whenever
myself, also.
that happens. I'd be fine voting on it tonight, too.
I would as well.
The applicant should know that it requires 5 affirmative votes in order to pass, no matter how many council members are here, and 2 council members are absent. So that's like 2 no votes already. So usually we give the applicant an opportunity, when there are not the full council here, to not request it to be voted on tonight, but you can if you want to. That's just whatever you want to.
Yep. Mr. Niederman, if you're going to speak, please step up to the microphone.
Can I, and if it doesn't reach 5 votes, and then it just stays where it is?
No, it fails.
No, it fails.
Okay, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Or you can leave it on this reading, and then...
It remains the same zoning, yes.
Okay, but I can come back and propose it later, or?
If the council wishes to leave it on this reading, then in 2 weeks we will look at it again.
If it fails, though, you cannot propose the identical zoning, I think, within a year.
Right.
Isn't that right, Jeremy?
Well, we've been, my thought, let me just, explain my thought and then I'll tell you what I'm thinking. Just as a
It's fine. We're good here.
just as a means of sort of considering I have a number of half a dozen other properties in the neighborhood, so I'm very invested in what happens here, and so just within a block of that location. So and my just from I mean I have pictures on my computer I can show you, but you know just what it looks like now, the houses that we have built, which we put big front porches on all 4 of them to increase the feel of the neighborhood, and that's what I would like to see there, more of a neighborhood. So with that, that's...
But you're really not allowed to discuss your project. This is a use zoning and a form zoning, so it's the uses that are allowed on that rather than what you actually plan to build, unless you're going to present some bill of assurance or something like that that would say you're going to build this.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you have a question?
No.
Okay. No. Yeah, we may go ahead and move forward with the vote.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. So if we're going to go forward with this, we will need someone to make a motion to go to the third and final reading. Yes, Alan, I'm sorry.
I'd like to make a comment, and then I'll make...
Sure, absolutely.
I've looked at this project, and I've thought about it extensively since we discussed it at agenda session. I think it would really be a good step in revitalizing the area. I think it needs it. So I'll be voting with the Planning Commission's recommendation on this one, and I'll make a motion to go to the third and final reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to go to the third and final reading. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Hetty,
Yes.
Shopmire,
Yes.
Latour,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Marsh.
Yes.
An ordinance rezoning that property described in rezoning petition RZN 14-4859 for approximately 1.9 acres, located at the 300 and 400 block of Martin Luther King Boulevard, from neighborhood conservation to downtown general.
Any final comments from the council on this? All right. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Hetty,
Yes.
Shopmire. Latour,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Marsh.
Yes.
Okay.
So it passed.
Yes.
Yes.
Under new business, number 1, an ordinance waiving the requirements of formal competitive bidding and approving a 1-year contract with the Northwest Arkansas Regional Planning Commission in the amount of $40,017.86 for a stormwater education program for 2015. Kit?
Whereas the city of Fayetteville, along with 17 other cities in northwest Arkansas, has been operating under the Environmental Protection Agency's federally mandated Phase 2 stormwater regulations as a municipal separate storm sewer system, and whereas the Northwest Arkansas Planning Commission has determined that a regional approach to certain minimum control measures required for renewal of municipal separate storm sewer system permits, specifically public education and outreach, public involvement and participation, and the education component of pollution prevention and good housekeeping, is both logical, cost-effective, and appropriate, and this approach has been approved by the Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality. And whereas the Northwest Arkansas Planning Commission has endorsed a proposal from the University of Arkansas Cooperative Extension Service to design and provide a stormwater education program to all municipal separate storm sewer systems in northwest Arkansas. And whereas the cost of the agreement to the city for 2015 exceeds $20,000 and would otherwise require competitive bidding unless the requirement is waived. Now therefore, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas, Section 1, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby determines an exceptional situation exists in which competitive bidding is deemed not feasible or practical, and therefore waives requirements of formal competitive bidding and authorizes the mayor to sign a memorandum of understanding, a copy of which is attached here to and made a part hereof, between the city and the Northwest Arkansas Regional Planning Commission in the amount of $17.86 for a stormwater education program to be provided by the University of Arkansas Cooperative Extension Service to satisfy portions of the Environmental Protection Agency's Phase 2 stormwater regulations.
Chris?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As Kit noted, this is a contract with the Regional Planning Commission. They function as a clearinghouse. All the cities pool their money into this single contract, and then the work that's provided for all of the cities is provided by the Cooperative Extension Service of the U of A. This is to meet our permitting requirements for our MS4 permit, our stormwater permit, on a yearly basis. They provide 3 items: public education and outreach, public involvement and participation, and pollution prevention and good housekeeping, which is essentially training for city employees. This is an amount of $40,000. I did have a question about, what are we getting out of that? What are we receiving? So I asked the Cooperative Extension Service to provide us with some information. I've got a long list of things that they've done that I won't read, but the total value of the hours that they've spent is about $74,000. Again, the reason we're able to get that is by pooling resources. They can put out a commercial, that sort of thing, that all of the cities benefit from, but we're only spending money once.
What questions do we have for Chris on this? Okay. What public comments do we have on this? Okay. I'll bring it back to the council.
I move we suspend the rules and go to the second reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to go to the second reading. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Petty,
Yes.
Shopmire,
Yes.
Latour,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Marsh.
Yes.
An ordinance waiving the requirements of formal competitive bidding and approving a 1-year contract with the Northwest Arkansas Regional Planning Commission in the amount of $40,017.86 for a stormwater education program for 2015.
Move we suspend the rules and go to the third and final reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to go to the third and final reading. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Petty,
Yes.
Shopmire,
Yes.
Latour,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Marsh.
Yes.
An ordinance waiving the requirements of formal competitive bidding and approving a 1-year contract with the Northwest Arkansas Regional Planning Commission in the amount of $40,017.86 for a stormwater education program for 2015.
Any final comments from council? Okay. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Petty,
Yes.
Shopmire,
Yes.
Latour,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Marsh.
Yes.
Okay, number 2, an ordinance rezoning that property described in rezoning petition RZN 14-4864 for approximately .26 acres located at 232 West Ash Street from RSF 4 residential single-family 4 units per acre to RMF 24 residential multifamily 24 units per acre. Kit?
Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas, Section 1, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby changes the zone classification of the following described property from residential single-family 4 units per acre to residential multifamily 24 units per acre, as shown on Exhibits A and B attached hereto and made a part hereof. And Section 2, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby amends the official zoning map of the City of Fayetteville to reflect the zoning change provided in Section 1.
Jeremy?
As you can see here in the map behind me, this property is located on West Ash Street, mid-block between Gregg Avenue and Woolsey Avenue. It's approximately a quarter of an acre, currently zoned RSF4, has a single-family residence and outbuilding dating from the mid-1950s. The proposal is to rezone the property to RMF 24, which, as you can see, several properties along Gregg Avenue, particularly on the east side of Gregg Avenue in this area, are zoned RMF 24. However, you'll also see that it transitions quite quickly, one building usually, perhaps two, into a quiet single-family residential neighborhood with pretty narrow streets as you go further to the east. Staff and the Planning Commission both did not support this rezoning request. We felt like the encroachment of multifamily developments further to the east would allow for introduction of height and density that would be incompatible with those single-family neighborhood, which is predominantly owner-occupied. Further east, it does change to some rentals, duplexes, smaller residences along Ash in those general areas and the cross streets in this area. There are other multifamily zoning districts. We did not feel the 24 unit per acre zoning would be appropriate in this area, and the Planning Commission agreed with that, voting 6-3 in denial of this rezoning request. The applicant has appealed that, and certainly can present their case to you tonight.
Would the applicant like to present your case?
My name is Taylor Katrubis, and this is my associate, Terry Parker.
You might want to pull that microphone just a little bit closer. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a little nervous. All right, so we're talking to you today about our family's lot here at Ash Street. As you can see, it's really close to the intersection of Ash and Gregg. It's the first small house you'll come to if you turn off of North Gregg Avenue onto Ash Street. The house, when we purchased it in the middle of last year, was a dilapidated, overgrown lot. And we have rebuilt the house, completely redone the lot so that it has a new face to it. But there's a big open spot behind the house that's surrounded by apartment buildings that we are trying to get this rezoned so that we can build a triplex on it. At just a quarter of an acre at the zoning of RMF 24, even though it sounds like a lot of units, it would really only allow for 4 total, which would be our house and the triplex behind it. The lot is surrounded by 16 apartment units to the north and to the side of it. And across the street there is a small house that's used as a rental, and they've subdivided their lot, but they have a similar situation to a larger scale with 6 apartment units behind it. You can kind of see it going down across the street. And then next door on the other side is a duplex. So I don't think that it would really be, I don't think it would contrast too sharply with the surrounding properties for us to build a small triplex. There was a concern at the zoning board meeting about influx of traffic coming onto Ash Street due to this additional residence. But we actually own that apartment building next door to this property, and we have a driveway already poured coming off of Gregg Avenue to the lot itself, and it meets the city requirements as far as its width and, to accommodate the building that we want to build. So we could really bypass the traffic going onto Ash Street and just have them come directly off of Gregg into this lot. And we are also planning on building a privacy fence behind the house that's already there, so if you were to drive on Ash Street, you wouldn't actually be able to see the triplex that we want to build. It would just be kind of back behind it and accessed through Gregg. If you look at a plat map also of this neighborhood, as he mentioned, every property on Ash Street is currently used as a rental. If you zoom out further and look onto Woolsey, over 60% of the properties are owned by LLCs. J.R. Ball, I think, owns 3 of them. There's an LLC there on the corner. They're all used as rentals. As the city continues to grow and the university grows and the demand for rentals increases, I think that this neighborhood will move in that direction more so. Instead of being just for small families that used to own these homes, in the 70s when the neighborhood was built, I think that this could actually fit in quite nicely here. And we have an opportunity to really, instead of redlining this neighborhood and leaving it as it is, allow for growth and allow it to have some, economic stimulation, really. I mean, this project would increase the property values over there and help it to look even nicer, I guess. I don't know. Do you have anything you want to say?
Terry Parker with Parker and Associates. Yeah, our main approach here was to leave the existing residence there to screen it, what we would do behind it from the road, and then also to have our access coming in off of North Gregg would alleviate, all these traffic concerns. So I think what we're proposing would be very much compatible and work with the neighborhood that's there, and would really enhance it in terms of what's been described as the intent. I didn't know if you had anything else.
I think it would also help to make a nicer transition off of Gregg. Just one last comment, as there is an 8-unit apartment complex there, and then across the street is the 6-unit. It's called Ashland Place Apartments across the street. So on our side of the road, it would kind of go from 8 units to 4 if you include the house, or 3 if you're just thinking of the triplex, and then 2 as the duplex, and then into a house. So it could kind of help to make a nicer transition into this neighborhood that's back behind, as opposed to just going straight from apartment building to houses. I think that's, if you have any questions, this will answer them.
Does the council have any questions for the staff or the applicant?
Mayor, what were the main objections to?
Thank you,
Sorry.
Councilmember.
I was just
Senator
gonna ask
Johnson.
Jeremy if you could speak to the driveway part being added into the apartment complex also. Would that have alleviated any concerns from the staff's perspective?
We didn't really get into a lot of the detail of the development. I think the intent is clear. Again, though, we can't consider what development what might occur on the property. For all we know, it could be conglomerated with the overall multifamily acreage, included as one lot, and then an apartment building be constructed that includes all of the acreage along Gregg as a density. So adding a quarter of acre then to their possibility for increased density. So I certainly think these folks have the greatest intents, but we're looking at zoning beyond even their ownership possibly. And so I think the concerns cited by the planning commissioners were compatibility and encroachment within the neighborhood further. We certainly believe in adequate transition, and that's in the eye of the beholder at times. So I think that was one of our concerns, as well as the planning commission, and traffic. That was mentioned by the planning commission as pulling traffic into the neighborhood. We could not restrict them from having an access from Ash Avenue entirely, being as its own current lot with access now.
John, you had a question?
That was basically my question. What were the objections of the staff? It seems the applicant just told us that they're pouring a driveway, not that some future owner couldn't come and jackhammer the driveway and do something else. Property needs to be used for its best use in a point in time. And we may not have the wisdom as the city of Fayetteville to understand how that may change through time. I would be in favor of letting the applicant build their property and use it as they see fit. After all, in our country, we do have private ownership of property. Not to say that we shouldn't have planning, but I don't want to step over those bounds very much. That would be my sentiment.
Yes, Kent.
I should know, I was at the planning commission, and there were neighbors who are private property owners in the same area that were objecting to this as an infringement upon their property rights for their single-family houses. And there might be some tonight, I don't know if anybody is here, but they did appear at the planning commission and asked that this not be allowed, because in fact, if you vote for this rezoning, you could get a 6-unit multifamily structure there, because this is more than a quarter acre, as opposed to what you've heard, and none of what you've heard is enforceable. They can do whatever they want to once it is zoned. And so that's what the planning commission was looking at, the concerns of the neighbors, as well as what could actually happen on the property. But of course, it's up to you all to decide what's in the best interest of the city.
Are we allowed to speak to that at all? Can I say
Yes,
something?
go ahead.
Okay, I met with Quinn Thompson in the zoning office, and actually with this zoning, if someone were to buy this property and come through and completely tear everything down, the most they could build here is 4 units, due to the fact that the city has rules about green spaces, trees, maintenance, riparian areas. Even if someone were to come by later and buy it from us, you couldn't fit 6. You could only put 4. And the people that came, there was one family that spoke against us at the zoning meeting, and it was actually the sister of our next door neighbor in the duplex, and we're actually really good friends with the man in the duplex. His sister doesn't live in the neighborhood. She lives on the other side of town. I mean, she was the only one that came to speak against us.
Okay. Alan, I believe you had something.
I have a question for Kit, I guess. Are we as a council allowed to ask, I know these rules are very stringent, for a bill of assurance?
No, we cannot ask for that. That's called kind of contract zoning, so you can't do that. Something like that has to be voluntarily offered by the applicant to try to get you to approve their zoning.
Thank you.
John.
this would be a question for Mr. Pate. Do we have a zoning that would accommodate what they want to do?
I'm sure we do. I think without the details of a plan, looking at how all the site would be developed, the very setbacks, the tree preservation, as they mentioned, and really going into more detail of a project related to their intent, it'd be difficult to just kind of throw a zoning district out there that might or might not work. I'd hesitate to do that because we might say something and then it doesn't work. Just as they mentioned, there are limitations on what you can do with your property, even if you have zoning.
Well, if the concern is that someone will come and raise everything that the applicant builds and come back and build a 6-unit apartment house or a 20-unit apartment house, seems like we as a city could come up with a zoning classification that would preclude that possibility. And I'm sure the applicant would be willing to submit a plan that might fit into a qualification that would allow a triplex, which is what they want to do.
And John, that's interesting because we have 2 weeks between each meeting. If you hold it on, say, this reading, and they have 2 weeks to work with the staff to look at a different zoning type thing.
Good.
But it's going to be dependent on what you all want to do. Sir, I believe you have.
I had a few questions. Jeremy, on that section of Gregg Street, is there a left turn lane?
I don't believe so.
There's not one. What about sidewalks?
There are for portions, but there's not a continuous sidewalk along Gregg, I don't think, on either side, honestly.
And what about transit service? Do we currently, I don't believe ORT runs a route there.
I'd have to look at our GIS maps to see if that's in that area.
Okay. And then under the current zoning, could they build an accessory dwelling unit or anything in the back?
Yes.
So under the existing zoning, they could add additional living unit to their property, they just couldn't do the triplex.
Under the current zoning, they have a single-family home. They could add by right an accessory dwelling unit, which is a small unit in the back. By conditional use permit, they could request for a duplex on this property. Anything further than 2 units, however, would take at least some zoning, such as RT12, which is a residential 2 and 3 family, which allow triplex up to 3 units, or one of the RMF zonings, and we have a number of those. RMF 6, 12, 18, 24, and it's all based on the density.
So I think they do have some other options in the existing use unit. I think the idea of an accessory dwelling unit, otherwise known as like a granny flat, could enable them to recoup some additional, get some additional value out of their current lot.
I guess what we were trying to do was retain they've already done improvements and remodeling on the existing structure. So we wanted to be able to retain that and add some other units and not have to knock it down and start over. So that's kind of why we're going for this.
And we met with the zoning,
We met in the zoning office to discuss our options. At the meeting, they brought up RMF 12. But really, as I mentioned before, with all of the city's other regulations on building on your lot, in order to build what we'd like to build, we have to get RMF 24. I know it sounds really huge and scary, but
But the size of
we've
the lot
considered,
really limits.
yeah, it's only a quarter of an acre lot, so at 24 units per acre with the other additional city rules on development, this is kind of our only option.
So you're saying you've met with the staff to look at other zoning and you haven't found anything compatible with what you want to do?
And we have a general contractor, and we've met with Terry, and
Okay.
he's tried to fit things on the lot, simulated, using these regulations, and we've met with city staff. And this is really the only zoning that would accommodate what we need.
Okay,
Go forward here.
okay. All right. Any other questions from the council? Let's take some public comment. Anybody want to address this from the public on this project? Okay, bring it back to the council. What's the wishes of the council? Yes.
Well, I prefer to hold it on this reading. I just feel like I personally need some more time to think about it. I defer, of course, to the council's wishes.
Sure.
I'll second that.
Everybody just wanna hold it right here?
Sounds good.
Okay, we'll hold it right here, 2 weeks. All right? Okay, moving along to number 3. An ordinance rezoning that property described in the rezoning petition RZN 14-4894 for approximately 3.78 acres located at 3525 South School Avenue from C2 thoroughfare commercial to I-1 heavy commercial light industrial.
Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas, Section 1, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby changes the zone classification of the following described property from C2 thoroughfare commercial to I-1 heavy commercial light industrial as shown on Exhibits A and B attached hereto and made a part hereof. In Section 2, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby amends the official zoning map of the City of Fayetteville to reflect the zoning change provided in Section 1 above.
Chairman.
This is a property on the west side of South School Avenue, or Highway 71B, at the intersection of Willoughby Road. It's developed with several warehouse buildings and a retail building, former retail building, totaling approximately 50,000 square feet. Those buildings, several of them have been vacant for the past several years. One of them was utilized for Dennis Home Furnishing for several decades. The City Plan 2030 Future Land Use Plan designates this site as industrial for its future land use, and this request is to rezone the property to I-1 light industrial heavy commercial. In staff's opinion, and with a vote, unanimous vote of the Planning Commission, we felt this I-1 zoning district would be an appropriate designation for this property near Willoughby Road, Standard Register, Cooper Power Systems, and Drake Field Airport. And so staff is supportive of the rezoning request for this 4 acres.
Okay. Any questions for Chairman on this? Okay. Any public comment on this?
Let's the applicant first.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Sorry, applicant. My mistake. Yeah.
Hello, Morgan Hooker representing the applicant. Seems like kind of past its time for C2 and retail. We think industrial fits the use there. Have any questions? I'm happy to answer.
Okay. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Any public comment on this? Okay. Bring it back to the council.
Motion to suspend the rules and move to second reading.
Second.
A motion second to go to the second reading. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Petty,
Yes.
Shopmire.
Yes.
Latour.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Marsh.
Yes.
An ordinance rezoning that property described in rezoning petition RZN 14-4894 for approximately 3 3/4 acres located at 3525 South School Avenue from C2 thoroughfare commercial to I-1 heavy commercial light industrial.
Move we suspend the rules and go to the 3rd reading.
Second.
A motion second to go to the third and final reading. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Petty,
Yes.
Shopmire.
Yes.
Latour.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Marsh.
Yes.
An ordinance rezoning that property described in rezoning petition RZN 14-4894 for approximately 3 3/4 acres located at 3525 South School Avenue from C2 thoroughfare commercial to I-1 heavy commercial light industrial.
Any final comments from the council? All right. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Petty,
Yes.
Shopmire.
Yes.
Latour.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Marsh.
Yes.
Okay, number 4, an ordinance amending Title 4, Unified Development Code of the City of Fayetteville to amend chapters 151, 161, 162, and 166 to create a new use unit for small-scale production, including boutique and specialty manufacturing, and to place this new use unit in appropriate zoning designations. Kip.
Whereas the City of Fayetteville planning staff has identified a need for a new use unit to allow for small-scale specialty manufacturing, and whereas recent trends in the manufacturing of handmade and craft products are directed towards smaller scale and locally produced products, and whereas the current zoning and development code does not currently specifically address these types of small-scale operations, and whereas planning staff has determined that these types of uses, if scaled appropriately, are compatible with neighborhood land uses. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas, Section 1, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby adds the following definitions to Chapter 151 definitions. Coffee roasting facility, a facility in which unprocessed green coffee may be sorted, roasted and processed or packaged for use and consumption, microbrewery, microdistillery, and microwinery. An establishment for the manufacture, blending, fermentation, processing, and packaging of no more than 15,000 barrels of alcoholic beverages per year. It may serve alcoholic beverages for sampling on the premises and may also have wholesale and resale for sales of alcoholic beverages produced on the premises. Section 2, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby amends Chapter 161 zoning regulations by inserting Use Unit 45, small-scale production, as a conditional use in the following zoning districts: 161.16, neighborhood services; 161.17, residential office. Section 3, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby amends Chapter 161 zoning regulations by inserting Use Unit 45, small-scale production, as a permitted use in the following zoning districts: 161.18, C1, neighborhood commercial; 161.19, CS, community services; 161.20, C2, thoroughfare commercial; 161.21, UT, urban thoroughfare; 161.22, C3, central commercial; 161.23, DC, downtown core; 161.24, MSC, Main Street Center; and 161.25, DG, downtown general. Section 4, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby amends Chapter 162 use units by inserting Use Unit 45, small-scale productions, as shown in Exhibit A, attached to and made a part hereof. And Section 5, the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby amends Chapter 166 development by repealing the first paragraph of Section 166.25B and replacing it with the following language: Section 165.25B, applicability. These design and development standards apply to commercial developments, office development, small-scale production, those parts of a planned zoning district or other mixed-use developments with commercial and office elements, and to industrial developments within the I-540 overlay district.
Jim?
Over the past several years, the city has seen an influx of smaller startup businesses operating out of residences, leasing small buildings or partial tenant spaces, and in smaller industrial buildings. In addition, a number of these existing vacant buildings along our commercial corridors that have been aging have been adapted and reused for a variety of non-residential uses, not typically seen in commercial areas where churches, fitness studios, light manufacturing, retail types of uses are centered. There have been situations where a new or expanding business has either had to request a conditional use permit from the Planning Commission to operate in an existing commercial building, or been forced, because of zoning, to an undesirable industrial area or a different community to find appropriate space to lease. A demand for small, light manufacturing tenant space, we believe, has increased based on permits we've issued and simply conversations we've had with entrepreneurs, including uses such as microbreweries, which I believe you're probably all aware of and heard of. To address these issues, staff is proposing several changes to our Unified Development Code. We are looking to create a new use unit, 45, which is called Small Scale Production. It would include all of our clean technology uses, but limited to size by maximum 5,000 square feet in gross floor area. That would include high-tech research and development, fabrication of alternative energy products, things of that nature, which would then be allowed in a number of our zoning districts where they're not currently allowed. Typically, those are that type of light manufacturing or production uses are only allowed within manufacturing zoning districts. We feel like limiting it in size would limit the potential negative impacts that production has and manufacturing has, and allow them to be located in commercial type areas. We're also including definitions for things such as coffee roastery and microbrewery, microwinery, and microdistilleries. Again, allowable with a maximum gross floor area of around 10,000 square feet and a production less than 15,000 barrels per year. We did a lot of research to try to find out what the magic number there was for square feet and production. We did several site visits to indicate that microbreweries were very different than a typical manufacturing facility, often with minimal impact to neighbors, and oftentimes with a lot of interaction with the public within the actual facility itself. Several local microbreweries are in facilities greater than 5,000 square feet but less than 10,000 square feet, and we felt like in some of our downtown areas, some of our commercial areas, particularly to adaptively reuse old buildings along College Avenue or MLK. These would be perfect types of uses rather than push them all to industrial districts. And then finally, boutique and specialty manufacturing, limited by size to a maximum of 5,000 square feet. Those would be things such as coffee roasting facility or other specialty manufacturer with minimal impacts to adjoining neighbors or properties. We left it open to allow the planning director essentially to make a call if there's another use that tends to fall in this, to allow that flexibility there, and look at the type of use and type of impact within that square feet within the use unit. So there still is that flexibility for future things that we're not even thinking of yet. The staff is certainly proud to bring this forward to incorporate these uses within the zoning districts, allow for more flexibility within our codes, and the Planning Commission was also supportive. We had intended to allow that to be at the Planning Commission for several weeks. They voted to forward it on at their first meeting and first reading of that, 6-0. We also had several local microbreweries submit emails of support, as well as the Fayetteville Chamber of Commerce in favor of the ordinance change. We also, our planning director interviewed the Arkansas Alcoholic Beverage Control to understand what their rules would be, to make sure we weren't creating anything amiss with what they would do, and we included that information there in the packet as well. So staff is recommending at this meeting or at a future meeting that you make these changes to the Unified Development Code.
Staff did a great job on this. This is something I've been interested in for a while, and they did an absolutely fantastic job on this, so thank you, Jeremy. What questions do we have here? Staff on this? Yes.
Thank you for bringing this ordinance forward. I think it's something that is fantastic. I did have a question. I noticed that there's a, the difference 5,000 square feet for most everything and 10,000 square feet for microbreweries, and I was curious if we had a boutique manufacturer come in and they needed 6,000 square feet and they would otherwise be approved, would staff be willing to consider a variance in a case like that?
I think staff couldn't grant a variance, they'd have to go to
Yes,
the
I
Board of
understand.
Adjustment, I think, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think the Board of Adjustment could they can't approve a different use, but the Board of Adjustment can vary things within the details of a zoning district, so I believe they would have that avenue in order to...
But there is a burden to go there because you have to prove it's
Certainly.
undue hardship to you, and so that might be a difficult standard just because you want another 1,000 or 2 square feet. Might be difficult for them to show that they cannot develop it in the square foot that is allowed under this.
Well, I guess, that's my only, and such a minor, it's my only concern about the ordinance because staff was able to tour actual facilities that come up with a recommendation for 10,000 square feet for microbreweries. And, I suspect that there are industries out there that would typically require more than 5,000 square feet that we don't have the opportunity to tour today, but nevertheless, which we would hope to attract here. And so, I understand we have to choose a number, but I'm skeptical that base 10 decision-making is less than arbitrary. So, in any case, I'm happy to support the ordinance. I'm hopeful that we would demonstrate some leniency if an industry came forward and they could show that it was pretty typical to build more than 5,000 square feet.
I think in general response, I certainly appreciate those comments, and we've always committed to bringing things back to the council to change the ordinance if we don't feel like it's working. We're taking a step out there to allow a lot of these uses by right that are generally industrial, so in the middle, the heart of downtown, right off the square, you could have some of these uses, cabinet shop, some of these things that residential uses may be mixed in, and so we felt like being conservative on the size requirement, at least right now, to test that market and see how it works, and if it seems like it functions well and there's more space needed, we have this avenue to come back to you all as well and change it out.
Thank you.
Alan and then John.
I'll let John go first.
Okay, John.
I very much appreciate the staff bringing this forward and recognizing that we don't always have the wisdom to understand what's coming down the pike. this facilitates entrepreneurship. People with an idea that may be the next Bud and Sam Walton, maybe the next Stephen Jobs, maybe the next Michael Dell, starting in their garage and innovating that may change our lives like the iPhone has. It's that sort of entrepreneurship, that sort of innovation, which I think this proposal will help spur on. If Mr. Petty has a concern about 5,000 being too small, we're the lawmakers. Let's make everything 10,000 square feet to accommodate even more innovation or more potential for what we see around us now in the business world. I appreciate what the staff is doing. I appreciate this ordinance, the direction it's headed. It's recognizing these things. Thank you.
Sarah. Oh, I'm sorry, Alan, and then Sarah.
That's okay. I was just going to say that I'm very supportive of the ordinance, and I like what it's trying to do, and I like that it's trying to give some new startups a chance here in Fayetteville and kind of work outside of what we've normally done by right, and I like that. However, it did only have one reading at the Planning Commission, and I would like for us to hold it on this reading tonight so that we could see if there's more ways we can improve or expand on it by taking public comment in the next 2 weeks. I plan to support this ordinance, but I think that we might have an opportunity to take more public input. I'm just not sure it's been out in the public long enough.
Okay. I would like to take some public I'm sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
I actually spent the afternoon with a small business looking for manufacturing space in South Fayetteville and downtown. And I do want to echo Alderman Petty's concerns about the limitation of 5,000 square feet, not so much because this company needed more than that, but because there were so few places to choose from that, it's hard to be specific in the amount of size you need when there's only certain sizes available. So, if there is an opportunity to make this a little more generous in that square footage area, I would support that. But otherwise, I think that this is fantastic. It certainly beats trying to be limited to finding light industrial land, which we seem to have less and less of. So good work by staff, and I think this is going to do great things for our economy.
I do too. Is there any public comment on this? Okay, bring it back to the council.
Mayor, if I could, I've got one question for Jeremy. I noticed in this list where it's all as a permitted use, we don't have, through all these other commercial areas, you don't have heavy commercial, light industrial, which seems like it might fit in there, and I don't know what your reasoning was not to allow a microbrewery in an I-1 zoning, heavy commercial, light industrial.
They would be allowed there already without
already
limitation
allowed?
to size. Correct. So I-1, I-2 already allows all of these uses currently. It has no limitation to size. So that's really the reason this is important, because we didn't have a lower intensity zoning designation that even allowed those uses within. So this is
I
allowing
realized manufacturing was, I didn't realize the selling was allowed there.
Okay. So does the council want to hold it on this reading?
Mr. Mayor, just because of the conversation we've had tonight, the city attorney still had a question. There's probably going to be some questions out there. I would prefer and respectfully request that the council hold it for 2 weeks.
Okay. Well, what does everybody think?
The benefit then is Mark and Justin will be able to get vote for it too.
Yeah. That's right. So you need a motion, sir?
No, you can just hold it right here, and we'll pick it up in 2 weeks. Okay. All right. Well, that concludes our business. What announcements do we have tonight?
Mayor, the City of Fayetteville Recycling and Trash Division is currently collecting Christmas trees through the month of January for citizens who they just need to set them outside on their normal trash and recycling day, and it will be picked up by the yard waste program. It's through the month of January. Also, they can return them on the first Saturday of each month if they choose to bring themselves, and that's from 8 to noon at the facility there on Armstrong Road. Also, just want to remind the council that the city will be closed on January the 19th for Martin Luther King holiday, and trash services on that particular Monday will run as regularly scheduled. as we do on most holidays. And the marinas at Lake Fayetteville and Lake Sequoia will reopen after their holiday close from December the 24th through January the 14th. So if you're looking for a boating or fishing permit at the lakes, you can see those reopen on January the 15th.
Any other announcements? Good? All right, thank you all. We're adjourned.